Today we're going to discuss mean, median, and mode and how it applies to our quantitative discrete and quantitative continuous data. Here we go. To begin with, we have our definitions. So the mean is the average of the numbers, and we find that by taking all of the numbers, adding them together, and dividing by n, where n represents the total amount of numbers or the total frequency. The median is the middle value. When you have an even number, you're going to have to average the two middle. So we have a formula to help us find the median as well. The median is equal to n plus 1 over 2, where again n represents the total number of terms or the total frequency. So if we have an even amount of terms, let's say we have 20 terms, then the middle is going to be 10.5, which means you're going to be adding the 10th and 11th term. And we'll see this happen a few times throughout our examples. And finally we have the mode. The mode is the most often occurring term, or the one with the largest frequency, and usually it's the easiest thing to find. Let's go ahead and apply these three terms to a set of data. For our first example, we're given quiz scores for a certain individual. So we have 20, 25, 2018, and several other quiz scores for our individual. We're going to find the mean, the median, and the mode. To find the mean, we're going to add up all of the individual quiz scores and divide by the total number of quizzes the individual took. So if we add up all the quiz scores, we get a total of 273 points. And if we count how many quizzes the person took, we get 13. Dividing those two numbers gives us 21, which means that the average quiz score was 21. To find the median, we first have to rearrange all of our numbers in numerical order. If you look at the original data points, they're kind of random. And so now we have them in numerical order, and we can find the very middle. We know that there are 13 total terms. So if we apply our formula for the median, we have 13 plus 1 divided by 2, which gives us the 7th term. So the 7th term was going to be our median as long as our terms are in numerical order. So identifying our 7th term gives us 20, which means that the median score was 20. And finally, we want to find the mode, which is the most often occurring term. To find the mode, it's also nice to have them in order because we can see that 20 occurs most often. So 20 is also our mode, along with the median. For our next example, we have an individual who watches a drive-thru, and at the beginning of each hour, he counts how many cars are in line. If you look at our frequency table, we can see that 2 times he counted 0 cars, 9 times he counted 1 car in line, 16 times he counted 2 cars. So this means that our frequency is going to represent the number of times he's counted, and then we have how many cars he's counting in line. To find the mean, we're going to have to combine these two numbers. So if he counted 0 cars twice, that's a total of 0 cars. If he counted 1 car 9 times, that's a total of 9 cars. If he counted 2 cars 16 times, that's a total of 32 cars. So to find the total number of cars, we're going to multiply the amount of cars times how many times he counted. We'll go ahead and look at that on the next slide. So here we can see that we're finding the total amount of cars a person counted, again, by taking the number of cars and multiplying it by the frequency. So we have 0 times 2 plus 1 times 9 plus 2 times 16 all the way down to 8 times 1. And if we divide those, we get approximately 3.1. Since we're talking about cars, it doesn't make sense to talk about 3.1 cars, so we would round this, and we say that you would expect there to be, on average, 3 cars in line when the individual is counting. The same individual went back another day, and he counted 10 more times. This time, his average was exactly 3. So the question is, how many cars did he count that day? What we're going to do is take our mean formula and adjust it a little bit. The first day, if we took our numbers and added them together, we would have that he counted a total of 185 cars, and he counted 60 times. If you combine that with the 10 more times he counted the second day, now we have that he counted a total of 70 times, and we have a different amount of cars on the second day. We're trying to solve for that x value. We do know, though, that the average is going to be exactly 3. So by combining our new frequency together and our unknown variable, we have an equation in order to solve for how many cars this person counted on the second day. By solving for x, we would multiply by 70 and then subtract 185 to get that he counted 25 cars on the second day. For our next example, we have group data that represents test scores, and we have the following ranges: 91 to 100, 81 to 90, 71 to 80, and 61 to 70. And then we have the corresponding frequencies for each one of our categories. We are then asked to find the mean, median, and mode for our data. The mode is the easiest one. It's the most commonly occurring, or the one with the largest frequency. And so that's going to be our 81 to 90 range. When we have grouped data though, we generally don't want to list the range. We want to approximate the value. And so to do that, we're going to average our two numbers. So we're going to average 81 and 90, and that's going to give us a mode of 85.5. For the median, we want to find the middle number. And to do that, we need to figure out how many people we have, or what is our total frequency. So by adding up our frequency together, we get that we have a total of 39 people, or 39 test scores. We then want to find our median by using our formula, n plus 1 over 2, which tells us that we want to find the 20th frequency. In order to find the 20th frequency, we're going to be adding cumulative frequencies together. So I'm going to start at the bottom. So I have the first 5 scores here, and then if I add in the next 15, I now have 20, which means that my 20th frequency is going to be in this range between 71 and 80. If I go from the opposite direction, if I start with 7 and then add 12, I now have the first 19 frequencies, which means again the 20th frequency is going to end up in this area here. And so it doesn't matter which area we start from, but you're going to add together the frequencies until you get to the 20th frequency. And so either way you do it, you're going to end up getting that we have something between 71 and 80. So once again, we're going to average that to say that our median is then going to be 75.5. And finally, we want to find our mean. So to find our mean, again, when we have your group data, instead of using a range of values, 91 to 100, we're going to average each one of these numbers. And then similarly to our last problem with the cars, we're going to multiply them by the frequencies. So looking at our formula, we have 95.5 times 7 plus 85.5 times 12 plus 75.5 times 15 plus 65.5 times 5. Again, looking at our formula, the first number represents the average of your range. So 95.5 is the average of 91 and 100. 85.5 is the average of 81 and 90. And then our second number represents the frequency for each one of those averages happening. When we add up our numerator, we end up getting 3,154.5. And then again, we divide that by our total frequency, and we get that we have approximately an approximate score of 81. So again, the key thing to remember here when you have your group data is you're going to be using averages, the average of your range, to find your mode, to find your median, and also to find your mean. The other thing that's very important is how do we find that median, again using your formula to find the middle frequency, and then adding frequencies until you get to that 20th one, or that middle frequency. For our final example, we have some data that represent students and how much TV they watch in a particular week. The first question is to find the mode. So to find the mode, we want to find the most often and most frequent occurring number, or in this case, category. And to do that, we just want to find the tallest column. So our tallest column represents the 6 to 10 numbers. So we could say that the most often occurring interval is 6 to 10 hours of TV. In order to find the median, we want to find the middle frequency. And in order to do that, we need to figure out how many students are involved in our survey. So we're going to add the height of all of our columns to tell us how many students are represented. If we do that, we're going to have to approximate a little bit here, but we can approximate that there were 14 students that watched between 1 and 5 hours. And to do that, again, our height of the first column is roughly around 14. And then we can approximate that there are 35 students that watch between 6 and 10 hours. And then we have 17 students that watch between 11 and 15 hours, 6 students that watch between 16 and 20, 5 that watch between 20 and 25, 3 for 26 to 30, and 7 for 30 to 35 hours. So again, to find the total number of students, we're going to count the heights of each column. That gives us a total of 87. So to find our median, we have our n plus 1 over 2 formula, which would be 87 plus 1 over 2, giving us 44. So I need to now find the 44th frequency. In our first column, we said that there were about 14, and in the second column we have 35. If I add those two together, 14 plus 35 gives me 49. So that means that somewhere in this second column we have the 44th frequency. So we can say that the median is going to be somewhere in that 6 to 10 range, and if we approximate our value by averaging, we can say it was approximately 8 hours of TV watched. And finally, we're going to find the mean for our data. And again, since we have grouped data, we're going to be using averages. So we're going to average the numbers from 1 to 5, average 6 and 10, 11, 15, and so on, and then multiply those by the frequencies, which we'll find by getting the height of our columns. So if we look at our formula, we have 3 times 14 plus 8 times 15 plus 13 times 17, and so on, where the first number is again going to represent the average of your ranges, and your second number is always going to be the frequency, and in this case it's the height of the column. So once again, it's the average of your range times the height of your column, and then we divide by the total frequency, which is all the heights added together. And if you do that, then I got 1081. Dividing that by 87 gives me approximately 12.43, which means on average, students watch 12.43 hours of TV. That completes our notes for today. Go ahead and start your homework.